I'm Kagan Dewey.
I'm Elise Magnant.
And we own and operate Blackbird Organics. It's a certified organic vegetable farm in Plainfield, Vermont. We started off in 2018 leasing land at Littlewood Farm. And then in 2023, with the help of the Vermont Land Trust, we were able to buy our own property, also in Plainfield, just 2 miles up the road. And so we're here today looking at how far we've come with building this up as a vegetable farm.
I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain, and I take you behind the scenes with growers who share their strategy for achieving the triple bottom line of sustainability. These interviews unravel how they're building their business to balance success across people, profits, and our planet. One ask I have for you is if you can leave a comment or write a review. There's a feature enabled right now called Fan Mail, so you can send a message via text to the podcast right from the link in the description. These come through as anonymous, so if you want to be known or would like me to reply, let me know who you are in the message. Give it a whirl, it's quick, easy, and free, and I'd love to hear from you. Today's episode comes to you from Plainfield, Vermont, where we visit with Kagen and Elise of Blackbird Organics. They've been farming since 2018 and have set their roots on their own farm with high tunnels and field production. We start off the visit with a tour of their greenhouses, walk around the fields, and circle back into a tunnel to hear how they're building their farming career.
We grow certified organic vegetables in Plainfield, Vermont. And that's Tara, our shepherd dog. And we are walking around our farm. And so it's a 74-acre property. About 50 of that, maybe a little more, is the woodlot, which is mostly softwoods, a lot of cedar. But then all the open land is pretty consistently buckland loam. Or at least that's what the soil map says. There's a lot of spots where it seems a little lighter. Yeah, we've got 3 tunnels now, and we actually have this one as a dedicated utility and seating space, which is really nice.
Yeah.
I think our first 2 years here we had the 1 tunnel. And so we were seating in it, but then kind of also trying to get beds ready underneath the benches so that, as soon as those things could move outside, we could clear up that space and plant a tomato right in them. And yeah. That's always a mess. So it's nice to just have this space. This is our first spring of this is the seating greenhouse. And that's all that we're doing in it right now.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, we set up this partition
To save a little heat.
Yeah, and then I've just been kind of slowly walking it back as we needed more space.
Yeah.
And then I think tomorrow we're actually gonna drop it because I think with tomorrow's seating we'll have to move into using the whole space. But things are coming along quite well.
Yeah.
We've tempered our water for in here this year for the first time, and I think it's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of damping off last year in our cherry tomatoes and some evidence of phosphorus deficiency right from the get-go. And so we've been running a little bit hotter nighttime temperatures. We're keeping it at 60 in here right now, ever since we potted up peppers and eggplants and tomatoes. And then we got a watering setup here with, it's got a float valve in it and then a stock tank heater.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
And then it runs off of a half horsepower sump pump from the hardware store for better pressure than we'd get from the well anyways.
Oh, that's a smart idea too.
And we even had
Now you're still using the hose, but it's warm, yeah.
We've got it all on a light switch now too.
Yeah.
Which is just one of those little things that for me is just making life a lot better because, we've always used the sump pump and then you just hear unplugging and plugging and unplugging, and it's really nice to just have on-demand warm water on a light switch. Yeah.
It's the little things sometimes.
It is, yeah. I mean, you save a couple minutes here and there and it adds up.
Well, it all adds up.
But I've been also thinking about how if a lot of their nutrients aren't available until, the soil's 60 degrees or something, And so often we'd water, you water with well water first thing in the morning, and you cool the soil of all of your trays right down to 50, right when the sun's coming out and they could actually get to work, as opposed to hitting them with 70, 75 degree water to start the day. You're just kind of taking more advantage of daylight, I think. So,
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Yes, this is probably the one that was up last time you were here. Got some early season spinach.
No
Paper
longer
pot.
sharing seating in here, pretty much.
Yep.
Nope.
And this is a ledgewood.
Yeah.
And then we've got a rimall there. And this, we believe, is an Atlas.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it used.
This one we paid for out of pocket. That one we got on an NRCS grant, and that one we got used from Bill Half at Harvest Hill Farm. And so we're saying we want to get more tunnels, but the next one's got to be a Harnois.
Yeah.
Because we've got to just keep building it. Right? Yeah. The full lineup of brands here.
Well, that's the way it goes.
So yeah, I mean, we're doing pretty standard stuff this time of year in all these tunnels. Like, this is all spinach that was seeded October 15th, I want to say.
Yeah.
And we've been harvesting for a few weeks now.
Some inner seeded onions in there.
Yeah, we're playing around with different dates for overwintered scallions, and this seems to be a good one, which I think was just seeded at the same time as the spinach.
Yeah.
So this will all be cherry tomatoes in a couple weeks.
But yeah, definitely looking forward to having more greenhouse space to have the early season variety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more and more. We've got our early season CSA and farmers market starting in May. And the farmers market, just anything you have in May, you can sell pretty much, because
Right.
gardeners are just getting into it.
People are antsy for fresh vegetables. Mm-hmm. How big's your CSA?
We're trying to grow it to 40 people this year.
Yeah.
Last year was 20. So we're still kind of climbing up there. We're in the 20s now.
That's a big jump.
There seems to be demand for it.
It's been really nice. Most of our members are people who live like right on this road.
Nice.
Which has been really sweet. A good way to get the neighbors over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it genuinely feels like the traditional idea of it's very much community supported. Like, just looking from here, it's like there's 3 people in that house right there that are part of the CSA. 2 houses down is part of the CSA. The house right down there helps us pick the CSA.
There you go.
So,
That's nice.
Yeah.
You're feeding the neighbors, and the neighbors get to
Yeah, participate.
eat right next door. Yeah.
yeah. Look at the other one. This one went up last July, and we knew we weren't going to have time, so this one was fully contracted out as far as, we had somebody come do the pad for us, and then we had Vine Ripe come put it up, did the whole thing, and I will say it was really nice. Like, I've skinned a lot of greenhouses. I kind of like doing it. We did all the site work on that one.
Yeah.
And we did all the site work and the construction on that one. And it was pretty nice to just keep doing what we were doing, and then 2 days later have a new greenhouse ready to plant.
Ta-da!
Here you go.
Super nice.
And the drainage has been really nice.
Yeah.
Alex Hunkins was our excavator, and he did an amazing job just swaling around, which we got almost immediate test of last July. But no issues in here.
Worked it right in. Yeah, put it to use. Yeah, site drainage is really key for high tunnels for sure, and something it's best to do up front.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's always a little bit of a work in progress.
How do you feel it worked out financially, having somebody else put it up for you?
Well, we had the NRCS grant for this one, so it worked out wonderfully.
Okay, so that was enough to cover their install costs.
It was.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we went just a little bit over because we got the extended ground posts.
Yeah.
And because we had Alex do the site work, and the site work was not insignificant on this one. I mean, you can see the drop off there and how much he dug in there. But Yeah, pretty much it was covered by that energy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Then it doesn't hurt the wallet so much to, out of pocket invest in the upgrades like upgraded ground posts.
Yeah.
Like that's not a big deal.
No. Though I will say now we've got the extra height is nice, but now we've got the added problem of figuring out how we're going to hang a trellis from it.
Yeah, we've got to kind of like drop a frame to put the trellis wires on because they're going to be too high to reach.
The standard height seems like you can like just the right height to hang tomatoes and stuff from.
From a regular ladder.
Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
I mean, I can just about reach in our ledgewood up for like hanging, but yeah.
I watched the guys at Nifty Hoops put up a high tunnel over at Bread and Butter Farm. They're out of Michigan, I think, and yeah, they set it up real fast. But what I took away from them is most of their crew was wearing stilts like a drywall crew would to like attach all the overhead piping. So they were just walking along.
It's amazing.
I'm like, there you go.
I've often thought about it. I mean, like I have been on drywall stilts before. My dad was a contractor, and
You got the balance.
yeah, it's cool. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty natural. I don't know if this is real or not, but my dad used to say that he worked on this like bigger construction crew, and there was a bunch of guys that would do like races on them.
Whoa.
Like sprinting. And he's like,
Yeah,
if you
I
can
bet they
actually get a
would.
stride going with like a 6-foot stilt on.
Oh man, you
Yeah,
could probably
they-
go so fast.
Well, we might as well go do the loop and see the view. 'Cause
Sure.
That's kind of the best part of the farm.
I think it's time to do tissue samples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the listeners, Elise is over there checking our strawberries under the remay right now.
Yeah, we went to the VVVGA conference and learned a little bit about the importance of tissue samples. We're going to play with that a little bit this year
Yeah.
with our strawberries and our cherry tomatoes as well.
How many strawberries do you have in there?
It's 4 beds, 2 row. A lot.
400
For us.
feet.
Yeah, times a long row.
Yeah, we're really excited. The plants overwintered really well under all the snow.
That's good. Yeah, we had a good blanket all the way through the winter this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sourced some really good straw this year.
Yeah, the last 2 or 3 years have been pretty bad strawberry years for us.
2 years ago, we lost pretty much the whole crop to that really late freeze,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
where, that it was supposed to be 27, and we were kind of prepared for that, and it ended up being like 17 or something. That was a pretty disheartening morning.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, we had an issue with sourcing our plugs.
Yeah, we got
And
them
they
super late. So they
Didn't even go on the ground until like September 15th, I think.
Yeah.
And they just didn't do much.
Yep.
So we went back to bare roots planted in late June last year, and just kind of went back to bare soil. I guess that's kind of one of the fun parts about being a strawberry grower that's also a diverse vegetable farm, is we have all the equipment to do all the different cultivation practices for strawberries, so we don't have to stick with just one. And I don't know if that's been a good thing or a bad thing, but for better or worse, we haven't settled on what our favorite way to do them is yet.
So this year you're going matted row.
Yep.
Maduro, yep.
And then, yeah, who knows? Depending on how this goes, when the next year's come in the mail, maybe we'll end up laying some plastic for them. Or,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about maybe doing plastic for the first year, rip up the plastic, transition to matted row.
Uh-huh.
let pick your owners come out for the second year fruiting of matted row, where it gets a little bit higher labor costs.
Yeah, yeah.
So far, we haven't gone pick your own with them at all. We've been able to sell every berry we can pick at the farmers market and to wholesale accounts,
Yeah.
co-ops. But as our other parts of our business are getting bigger, I don't know how many labor hours we're going to be willing to dedicate to crawling those strawberry beds this June.
Yeah, although his brother keeps like threatening to build us a row hand. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that happens.
Yeah.
Have you heard about anybody's experiences with those?
Well, I got to use a picking assistant back in like 2012 era. My grandpa had one, and it's a sister unit to the Rohand. And I will say it's a game changer.
Wow.
It is, yeah.
I mean, you can pick almost twice as fast
Yeah.
because you're using both hands. Like, you're not using one hand to carry the basket, or you're not using one hand to like push yourself up off the ground. You can
Yeah.
just like almost swim through the plants.
Yeah.
And then, so you're picking with two hands, so it goes really quick.
What you're saying is all the things that I dreamt it would be are real?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we almost invested in a second one.
Wow. Cool.
Because it works so well. And then because you're not as tired, because you're not bent over,
Right.
you can pick twice as long. So you're picking faster and longer. So it's kind of a win-win. The only downside now, I think, is they're just really expensive, but so is labor if you calculate it.
Right, over how many years?
So I'm about ready to fill out a grant application to try to get another one myself, because that one got
yeah.
sold. But
Cool.
but it's great for hand planting or weeding too.
Mm.
So it's not just picking.
Yeah, I wonder for the
definitely
carrot,
encourage
the
them.
carrot weedings would probably really benefit from that.
Yes. Yep.
When we moved onto this farm, this field here had been in hay production for as long as anyone alive could remember. It was really nice. We got to talk to, we actually already knew the guy who had been haying it for the past 30 years, so he was able to give us a little bit of intel. But nobody really knew about plowing it.
Yeah.
And so I just remember there was this moment, we had already like signed a purchase and sale. We were going forward. We had taken some soil tests, but we bought our tractor, and like got it here, and had a plow. And we're just like, all right, first pass, like fingers crossed, because at this point, we had committed, but it was like, I hope we don't just trip the plow like 2 feet in. And so we started right there and went for about 600 feet before
Before you hit the
we
rock.
pulled it up.
Nice.
And that was one of the best feelings I think I'll ever experience in my life. It's like, yep, this is gonna work.
Not too many rocks.
So there's still plenty of rocks, right? Like,
They're mostly big rocks though, and I'd rather pull out big rocks than have to crawl through a bunch of small rocks.
yeah, they're good wall building rocks, so we can maintain that historical feature there.
Yeah.
We've been kind of
like that.
chopping it up over time and just figuring out what areas of it. Some people look at this and they've told us they would just plow the whole thing as one big field and just kind of go up, through the ups and downs.
Yeah.
I don't really want to manage 600-foot long beds.
Nope.
It's just disheartening, when you're weeding carrots. It's like 400 feet in and you still can't see the end.
Yep.
So all these front fields are about 350 or 400 feet long. And
That's still a long row.
it is. Yeah, we've been working through, with the equipment we have, figuring out what our best, sequence of tillage tools is for converting this thick sod into field space.
Yeah.
This field's been worked now for 2 years and is pretty good. This one we just started working last fall. And so we ran a Fred Cane ripper through that just to kind of try and get some things fluffed up. But honestly, I feel like the quickest turnover from sod to plantable we've gotten is just rototilling a lot.
Yeah.
It seems kind of harsh on the soil, but at the same time, like you're trying to kill the grass, so it's
Right.
kind of what you need to do.
So how many acres do you have worked up here?
I swear every time I pace it or Google map it, it's different.
Yeah, between like 6 or 8 maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 6 is probably
Yeah.
safe for us to say. I think by the time we're done and have like
Pushed out the
pushed
margins.
things to where we really want them, it'll be closer to 8. And we're planning on cropping about 5 this year,
Okay.
so that feels like a
Yeah, that's
good balance.
good. That's good.
Yeah, this will be where we're thinking 2 more 30 by 96s here,
Yeah.
and then we'll have, 5 acres of outdoor field production, 4 30 by 96s of protected culture, and that seems like a nice, operation for our scale and what our markets and what we want to do is.
Yeah.
Yeah, then there's fields down there as well. We got the cottage there, which we rent out as an apartment, and then the old farmhouse is already kind of set up as a duplex.
Oh,
So
nice.
we rent out the west half of it. We live in the east half. And while everybody who lives on the property has a lot of experience vegetable farming, none of them are our employees.
They work at other farms.
So yeah, when you were here last, we were just starting to imagine a wash pack house, and this was pretty much filled with trash, I think.
Yeah, stuff.
Stuff,
So
yeah.
we're sitting in a barn that is a mix of very, very old construction and new construction from 2005, I think.
Yeah, around then.
That was built after the previous owner. They had like a big hay barn off the end of that side of it that burned down in the early 2000s. And then she built this as an addition on what was left of that barn for her art studio.
Okay.
And so we are kind of doing this in stages as we can afford to. But we needed a place to wash our produce.
Right.
We were doing the last spring. We were doing the behind the greenhouse mud pit and hose system, which was getting tiresome pretty quickly. So we've got a draining concrete floor here, and some of our basic stuff, and then we're working on dismantling that section of floor so that eventually we can bring
Move
that
into
space
the
all down to
greater
level.
space.
Yeah, that'll be a nice size space once that's
I think
usable.
so, yeah. But this will be on casters in a minute, and we'll be able to wheel it outside.
Oh yeah, yep,
Which
in
will be
progress.
nice.
We got
Today's project.
We got the big green spinner that has been really, really nice.
Haven't seen one of these yet.
Oh, yeah?
I've
Oh,
heard
really?
of them.
Yeah, it's great.
So it's the big never sink.
Yep. My only complaint is that the spinning time is too long.
Okay.
The minimum spinning time is like over a minute.
What I end up when I'm using it is I just
I
if
just
I'm going to be
emergency
using,
stop it.
yeah, I just set it for 5 minutes and just start emergency stop, and that seems
But-
to work fine. But
What's your average cycle time that you like to do?
I usually don't like to, I like 30 to 45 seconds.
Okay.
seems to do well as long as you kind of shake them out a little bit as you're putting
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't get too beat up.
But it is pretty easy to clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
And-
just spray it out.
It seems to do a quiet, nice job. And I mean, we were using like a 5-gallon hand spinner from Johnny's before.
Okay.
And we were having some days where we were doing like 100 pounds of greens,
Yeah.
and that was just out of hand.
That's a lot by hand. Yeah.
So this was a nice upgrade last year. And then we got the barrel washer from Grindstone, which I don't even bother with the lock.
Yeah. Just the fact that it has a lid is nice.
Yeah,
Do you regularly have it strapped to the dolly, or is that
no,
just a temporary?
We've been washing in the greenhouse up until yesterday.
Yeah.
So, but it's time to move in here.
Yeah.
But we had to do some washing, and it was still below freezing. So
Yeah.
but yeah, the barrel washer's been such a great investment. We're doing a lot more carrots more than ever, so
Yeah.
it's been really helpful and fun.
Grindstone's selling them standard now with the
Oh yeah,
with the variable speed DC motor in it.
which is awesome. You can just like get it set to the right processing speed.
With the
You
right
never have to
tilt and
turn it off.
everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, all last fall, you were pretty much running this as a solo job to go through carrots. And
Yeah, I think the best time was we did their final pick of carrots, and we picked and washed 900 pounds of carrots all after 12 noon before the end of the day.
Nice.
Which felt like a good accomplishment.
Yeah.
so yeah, this has kind of been our biggest bottleneck on our farm at this point. You know,
Wash pack.
Yeah, we've got, our field systems, I think, in a pretty good place. And we've pretty much bought all the toys we want for cultivation. There's a couple things that are on the list, but not like crucial.
What's next on the dream list here?
I mean, we'll join the club and say we want a stone burrier.
Yeah.
I feel like the more we learn about it, the more it sounds awesome. But I think maybe even before that would be a ditch bank flail mower.
Yeah.
Partially for mowing down cover crops without like having your wheel tracks in front of your mower, right?
Yep.
So that everything gets evenly mowed. And then also just because we've got like a lot of like little hillsides and swales on the farm, that it would be kind of nice to be able to mow and manage with that.
Yep.
So that's on the dream list. The stone barrier's on the dream list just for quicker turnovers and better incorporation of cover crops. I think I'm happy with our cultivation equipment. I used to say I
we've got a
wanted
lot
an
of stuff.
eco-weeder,
Yeah.
but I feel like we're doing fine without it.
Yeah.
We bought a Kubota L245H last year.
Nice.
With baskets on it, and then we got a tine rake, a Williams 2-bar tine rake for the back of it, and that's just such a great tool for us. Like,
Okay.
We've got the Gandy spreader too.
Yep.
So just in a single pass, if you throw like the spiders on the back or just a toolbar, we're like side dressing, basket weeding, and getting the walkways in a single pass with it, and that feels really good.
Yeah. I think that's a fairly common setup that people have been doing. So.
Yep. So that's a pretty sweet addition. So we're running between, like, we've got the Massey out there that's doing our primary tillage and all of our fork and bucket work.
How many horsepower is that one?
It's a 65 horse.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the 2606H. We bought it from Texas.
Whoa.
This is actually a little bit of a funny story. So I guess the abbreviated version without any drama that I don't want to talk about on the air would be like, we already had this operating loan in place and we were going to buy a bunch of equipment with it, but then that equipment sale fell through, and we had already had the loan in our bank account for a few months because it kind of took a while for that to all precipitate. And our loan officer, I talked to her and was like, hey, so remember that loan? Like, we actually didn't end up buying all of the equipment. And she was like, I need to make a few phone calls. And she called me back. She's like, it would be a lot easier for me if you could keep the loan and buy a bunch of similar equipment. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what we want too. Like, we still want to buy a lot of equipment. And she's like, do you think you can get it done in the next 2 months?
Oh, jeez.
Like, can you spend this $50,000? And it was kind of perfect because we were like moving quickly on buying this farm and knew we wanted to like do tillage as soon as possible. Like this was in like September, and we were kind of hoping to get a fall tillage pass in. And so we started like shopping. We had like some friends looking at auctions for us and like keeping an eye out. And we found this Massey. It was like, I think it had 400 hours on it. It was a 2019. We liked the look of it. And the specs fit what we were looking for, and it was in Texas. And, we called the guy, and we just had this back and forth with him that was really funny, where he was just like going on about how he's like, goes to auctions, he's like, I'm a John Deere guy through and through. It's like, but this Massey, it just seemed like a good tractor to me. And I'm like, well, like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a good point, right? If this particular tractor got you to switch allegiances.
Got his attention. Yeah.
And so we finally like decided we were going to do it. And I go to the bank and I'm like, hey, I'd like to wire transfer $30,000 to this guy. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm buying a tractor. And they're like, are you?
Like, yeah.
And like, it hadn't really, because we were kind of like rushing at this point. It hadn't really occurred to me at this point. I'm like,
are we buying a tractor?
Yeah, like I haven't really vetted this guy who's on tractorhouse.com, but we were just like, this has got to happen. Like, let's go for it. And so we did the wire transfer, and a minute later, I get a phone call from this guy. He's like, well, I just got your transfer. Thank you very much. And I'm loading it up right now and I'm on my way.
And it was here 2 hours later.
No way.
They drove it like straight here. They did not stop.
We like got a phone call. And it was
See you
like
tomorrow.
10 o'clock at night.
And they're like, yeah, we're going to be there in an hour. So we had to like wake up in the middle of the night. And
Holy crap.
And he was like, yeah, I'm going to be there. Like, if you guys could be there to unload it, I'd really like to get back on the road to get home.
Oh my goodness.
So,
yes, that was great.
yeah, we fired it up and like the first moments of driving our new tractor, we're backing it off of a trailer on a hill in the middle of the night.
Of course.
And, but it was fine. And it's served us well ever since. The only issue we've had with it was after the first winter, the fuel lines got a little clogged, which I mean, could have just been that there was some left in it from when it was in Texas, and it was, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Down south, they run different fuels. And
it was already like starting to
gel
freeze
up,
at night when we got it, so. But yeah, that was not too bad to fix, and it served us really well since, so.
It's nervous working with people far away like that.
Yeah.
With big ticket items, but that's good.
Yeah,
You had a
worked
good
out.
interaction there.
Yeah. And then we just kind of went on tour filling out the rest of our equipment lineup. We had a really good visit to Jericho Settlers Farm.
Yeah.
And to buy like some disc harrows.
Yeah.
And then Mark was there and he was just like, what are you doing? And we like kind of told him, he's like, well, let's take a look around.
Throw some more stuff in your cart.
Filling a trailer with
Oh, nice.
toolbars and cultivating parts and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, then Amanda helped us at the very end at Tamarack Hollow.
Yep.
We had like a very specific amount of money left. And we're like, well, throw in a net.
I need to round up to...
And then this knife for $13.42.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so that's how that all came together.
Maxed out a loan. So
Fun.
lesson there, if you take out a loan, make sure you use it, right?
Yeah. I guess with the Farm Service Agency at least.
Good to know.
Right.
So yeah, that's how we financed all the equipment we needed to get started. I guess then we did get a CAE loan for the Kubota because that came later. We went without a cultivating tractor. And
We used the 8N a little bit.
we used an 8N a little bit. We tried also running cultivation equipment behind the Massey, because we're like, this is kind of overkill, but we can do it.
It's what you have, yeah.
But it was kind of awkward, just to like get close when you're up high on a higher tractor with a bucket in front of you and all this stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's been really nice to, got a good network of other farmers we know, and a lot of them are either scaling up or scaling down, but either way they go in there, getting rid of some of their equipment.
Changing up practices all the time.
And it's coming from people we trust have taken good care of it.
Right.
And so I feel like that's pretty key when you're going to buy a 40-year-old piece of equipment for a lot of money. What else is there to see here? We've got a pretty standard walk-in cooler setup over there that, for slapping together a cheap walk-in cooler when you
Yeah, that was a
need to
wood
slap one
shed.
together.
Yeah, it's a walk-in
That
cooler.
blends right in with the house.
We actually keep saying we have some siding and we want to like really
No, you definitely should.
doll it up and make it really look like it's part of the house.
Yeah.
We definitely need more cooler space, but for now, it allows us to at least pick for farmer's market before the night before.
Yeah.
A lot of our wholesale we're still doing the morning of, but yeah, we just took this wood shed, put a ton of foam board in it and a cool bot, and away we go.
Yeah.
Still need some spring cleaning.
6x8 or something?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna try and put in 10 by 14 walk-in this year.
Yeah.
Either just get something that's outdoor ready and put it like at the end of our pad here, or depending on how quickly we get through that part of the barn's demolition.
One end or the other, yeah.
Yeah,
Put it
I think
over there.
eventually we want it in there, but it's just if we can move it in now or later. Yeah.
We want to walk through the lower fields.
Yeah, we can check out the lower fields.
Do one more little loop. I feel like when you when you asked us to be on the podcast, Andy, one of the things I thought of was like just wanting to give shout outs to like how much, how many of our farm mentors who have been on the show already.
Yeah,
We should credit for anything of our success.
absolutely. Well, that's usually one of my questions: is who are your mentors? So,
Elise and I met at Footbrook Farm,
okay,
working for the LaHouliers,
yeah,
and
just chatted with them this winter.
Oh.
yep, I caught that episode.
Wait, Kagan, did you take down some of this fence or did it just fall down over the winter?
It just fell down.
Perfect.
It's just great, yeah. Yeah, we've been meaning to take down that fence, but we just ignored that project long enough that it,
Took care of
Take
itself.
itself down.
yeah, this is the Kubota.
Yeah, it does look like it's in pretty good shape.
I'm trying to remember who, so this came from Bill Half, who he got it from another grower that I don't know, but I guess was one of his mentors. So it just kind of keeps getting passed down.
Yeah.
It has this one thing that the starter just doesn't work like 1 out of 10 times. You just like turn the key and it just won't do anything, and you
No.
like tap on the solenoid or whatever, for a while. And it doesn't seem to matter what you do, it's just like not in the mood yet. You walk away, you come back 5 minutes later and it's no problem, fires right up.
Yeah.
And it always scares me a little bit that it might actually be a real problem someday. Like I'm actually gonna really need it and it just won't start. But
Yeah.
Bill said it's been that way for like 20 years.
Oh, geez.
And he's like completely rebuilt the starter before. He's completely rebuilt the electronics to it, and nothing changed. But it's also never been so stubborn that it didn't start like within 10 minutes.
Huh.
That's a future pond site, hopefully.
Pond.
Yeah, we were digging water lines and found a water line that actually goes to this area.
An old
So we're
pond that
wondering
kind of
if-
filled
yeah.
itself in, maybe.
I think it was the well overflow pipe,
Yeah,
which
we-
is clogged.
Yeah.
So I think one project this year is to try and unclog that and see if we can have a pond again.
Yeah.
We have a really, really productive artesian well here. It was drilled and tested at 30 gallons a minute.
Okay.
And every spring it just is like overflowing out of the top,
Yeah.
out of the cap. So it would be nice to just kind of store, like have all that overflow go into this pond and have it for irrigation. Out in the woods there though is our actual pond, irrigation pond, which is spring fed, and we've been impressed with so far. It seems to have a recharge rate of like 40 gallons a minute. And so we're just pumping out of that with like a Honda pump into
Yeah.
a Magnant system in drips, and we've been able to, irrigate an acre at a time, and that's adequate for us
Nice.
at this point. So we're gonna keep pushing that way until the cedars start to shade us out. And then this field over here we're gonna start exploring, but it's got some really bizarre wet spots in it. The guy who hayed here said in 30 years he never has seen that little spot down there dry out completely,
Yeah.
even through drought periods. It's just a little bubbling
We'll
out of the
see.
ground spring or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of, a characteristic of Maple Hill, it seems. You can see that concrete structure over there is actually a storage structure for a spring that is the town of Plainfield's water supply. So there's like a lot of water here.
Yeah, I guess so. A lot of water and draining soils.
Nice combo.
It is a really nice combo. Yeah, this is really drying out today.
Sloping fields, but it doesn't feel like you're hiking up a hill.
Yep.
And it seems to be sloped enough that things don't pool, but
Yeah.
not so sloped that they erode, at least so far. So
Sweet spot.
yeah. Oh yeah, this is really drying out today. It's always breezy here, which is kind of nice because it keeps the mosquitoes off of you. But yeah, we could definitely get into this now.
Yep.
This was all of our
This
kale
is
last
very
year.
nice. This is
And this will be all of our peppers and eggplant this year.
Yeah.
Over here. You can see our future wood supply. We're kind of this mentality of trying to use pallets for as many things as possible. We never farmed with pallet forks until we bought our Massey,
Yeah.
and now I just want everything in my life to be palletized. that was some of the advice Mark gave me actually. When I was there and he was loading everything, and he told me the best advice he could give a young farmer was to build your systems and farm now like you're in your 50s.
Yeah.
He's like, and then when you're in your 50s,
You're already
you'll feel all
ready.
right.
You can still keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we just got some toolbars. Those discs came from Mark. The flame weeder and the Lillistons up there all came from Mark.
Nice.
And then, the water reel transplanter came from Bob Hill and Jericho. That came off Marketplace. Just kind of build it as we could find things that we wanted. But yeah, I feel like, another person, we only met him the one time.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, the
yeah.
excavator, that's probably been the most helpful tool as far as making a new farm happen.
Oh,
An
yeah.
excavator.
Yeah.
That's,
In your case, a friend with one, right? Or do you have
Well, there's
one?
that one there that we have.
Oh,
that's my dad's excavator.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Which
he
has
came
been-
and left it here, and he hasn't come back for it in a couple of years, which has been really perfect.
That fall where we were kind of scrambling to try and get a functional farm in place.
Yeah.
Because we were switching. We had been running the business on leased land, and then we were going to be switching here the following spring. So we kind of wanted to
Hit the
get as
ground
much
running.
in
Yeah.
place so we didn't need to shrink our business in transition. So we put this greenhouse up in November of that year, and we needed to build the pad. And fortunately, my dad had that excavator, and he brought it up.
Yeah, we've been able to dig all the lines.
It is kind of funny because he brought it here and then it stayed here for the winter, and then he keeps needing it for projects that he's doing, and he's like, well, I only need like a half day's worth of excavation, and it's actually more expensive for me to like rent a big enough trailer for it
Of course. Yeah.
and bring it all the way home and spend 2 days doing it than it is for me to just rent an excavator down here. and we're like, if you say so.
Yeah.
I kind
Whatever.
of feel like I should bring it to you at this point, but
The kale really perked up. It looks fine.
that's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and put that up tomorrow. Oh, I was just saying that I've loved buying all these tools from other farmers, and like I feel like you get a little tidbit from everybody.
Yeah.
And Bob, when we were buying that water reel, just had he was just telling us about his systems and stuff, and he kept saying to us, he's like, but you guys are smart, you'll figure it out. And the way he said it though was just like really
Yes, now
stuck
it's
with
like
us.
something we just say to each other all the time. Like, you're a smart kid, you'll figure it out.
But I think really like the biggest mentors for us, definitely got to give the Lahouliers credit. We were there for years, and Tony was just so generous with his knowledge.
Yeah,
Like-
I think it was where we both learned to love farming.
Yeah. And I feel like I got to give a shout out also to Heather from Footbrook, who's been their manager
Okay.
for forever. And we both got a lot of time working one-on-one with her.
Yeah.
And she just has such a mind for systems and organization. And I'm just really grateful to her. And then when we were leasing at Littlewood, Joey and Betsy were really good mentors for us. Like, I feel like Joey really helped us expand from like being pretty good growers to like understanding mechanization and like scaling things up a lot. I think one of my favorite Joey stories was like I was trying to put an implement on, and I was kind of trying to like muscle it, and he was like coming out and like, I was like a young strong guy trying to like do it, and he was like moving slower, and he just like goes and grabs this really big stone bar and like places it just so with one hand and like levers it into place. And he told me he's like move place to stand and a long enough lever, I'll move the world. He's like, have you read your Archimedes? It's like, no, I haven't. He's like, you should get on that. But I think it was a pretty good moment of like introducing us to tractor work and like using tools, because it's a classic quote about using a lever, but I feel like all of the tools we use are the same idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And until you like are shown, you might just think to brute your way through it
Yeah.
because you're young and you're strong. But to see somebody who's older take a lever, like, oh, right, yeah, that's kind of nice.
Right.
And now, a few years later, you're like, yeah, my back thanks me for using levers now.
Right.
Or it will, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully will. And with everything we do, right? Like
Yeah,
we could,
right.
we brute forced our way through wash pack.
Yeah, wash pack,
years.
weeding,
All these
Yeah.
things.
everything,
It's an important lesson.
propagating.
So that's kind of where we're at right now, is just trying as much as possible as we build our farm to think long term about it and buy the right tools.
So it's been, let's say it's 2025 now. You just said you started in 18,
Yep.
so you're about 7 years in,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like the flywheel's spinning now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we're not like in our final form yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, we have a viable business that is supporting us. It's supporting itself. And I feel like we're refining our systems in a way, even though we're still scaling up. I feel like we're finding what's working and what's not. We've been working with farm viability
Yeah.
and getting support on that kind of stuff.
Yep. Are you both full-time on the farm?
In the summer, yeah. We both work off farm in the winter.
Okay.
But we kind of shut down operations for the winter anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. It'd be nice eventually if we had the storage to like grow enough to keep going through the winter, but quite frankly, it doesn't seem to me like there's enough acreage for us here to have a farm that would really benefit from going farther into the winter.
Yeah.
You know, like even if we maxed out and did 8 acres of production, you could do 8 acres of production that all sells out by November 1st.
Right.
Unless we covered it in greenhouses. And I know there are plenty of people who are doing full season on less acreage and making it work, but I don't know. In my brain, it just doesn't. I guess I like skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey,
Same.
that's fair enough too. Yeah. And take some time off and enjoy the winter time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's the two of us, and then we have one full-time employee, May through October, one part-time employee, about the same, May through October, and then our neighbor Ellen, who she's going to help she's going to help out whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we really do like it.
Yeah, we like it a lot. She's been volunteering with us since we started here at Littlewood for like the last 7 years. And then we just so happened to buy the farm right next to her house, so she can walk here now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So she's just excited to help out and get her hands in the dirt.
Yeah.
Her original thing was that, she was just like, I'm getting older and the only way I'm going to like stay able-bodied is by working hard.
Yeah, and I guess she's actually increased her bone density in the last few years.
Yeah.
She's 74.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's, it takes a little getting used to have your 74-year-old neighbor insist on being the one who picks up the heavy box.
She's like, I want to lift it with my back. I'm like, okay, Ellen.
Go figure.
But yeah, she's strong for it.
Hey, found somebody with a good work ethic. That's
For
good.
sure.
Yeah.
That's hard to come by.
No, she's just been such an emotional, just a holistic support to us all these years. Just a
Yeah.
good friend.
Yep. Encouragement.
There's some exciting new market developments. The Plainfield Co-op has been an account for us from the beginning, and they used to be in the village, but now they bought a Route 2 location. So this will be their first year there.
Good opportunity for growth there then.
Good opportunity for growth. Also, they do a big seedling sale, or the hardware store has always done a big seedling sale. And we've always done a seedling sale here, or like on farm, which never really enjoyed very much. So we're really excited for the opportunity to maybe just sell our seedlings wholesale there instead.
I wouldn't say we didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it.
Well, you enjoyed it.
But it can be disruptive because no matter how much you want to have open hours and closed hours,
You just have, it's just.
once word's out that we're there and they see you in the field, they're like, I can go flag them down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I have had a person come out into the field while I was actively harrowing and get in front of the tractor to wave me down.
Oh, geez.
Because they wanted to buy a 4-pack. which was, and I appreciated their desire to support our farm, but
But you were a little busy.
I was a little busy, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So that's good.
But the Plainfield Co-op thing is, I think, interesting because, you know, it took them a long time to make that move for various reasons, but now they've made the move, it seems like it's really working. You know, they've combined with our local general store and deli, and so it's pretty cool to have a place that's open from 7 to 7 that you can buy groceries and your hardware needs and a sandwich and like basically everything you could need.
Yeah.
And their sales are up, but it seems like there's I don't know if we're going to be able to provide all the vegetables that they need on our farm. It seems like there's room for there to be more
That's
Yeah,
good.
which is great.
farms, which is something that is good, but also like, you know, I want to encourage people to go for it and make it happen more.
Yep.
So I feel like we need more farms.
Yeah. There's other farms around.
What are you excited about in your next year of farming life?
I'm excited to, like, if we can get to it, finishing that wash pack project, build out. Also excited for Lake House weekend. Last year as a crew, we all decided to take a trip, and we did a weekend in September, and we went to the Adirondacks, and
Yeah,
Stayed
stayed at
on a
Lake
lake.
House, and it was nice to do that as a
it was
crew.
really nice. The crew really loved it. Really want to do that again.
That's cool.
But yeah, Wash Pack House is pretty exciting. Just to have a nice space and be able to have systems and that are working.
Yeah.
What am I the most excited about if it's not the Wash Pack House?
I don't know. I'm excited to barrel wash more carrots.
Yeah, I feel like every year there's a different crop that I'm most excited about. I think last year it was carrots, and I think this year it's probably our sweet corn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We started experimenting with some undersowing methods that went really well last year, and I'm
Yeah.
excited to see if they continue to work,
Right.
or if it was just a one-off. You know, went really well because the conditions are right, and I'm pretty excited about that because I see the sweet corn as being a pretty key player in our rotation and our fertility program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also just another one of those crops that people lose their mind for, which is always
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. People love sweet corn.
Last year we were the only organic sweet corn at the farmer's market. And that was kind of wild. We had to borrow the neighbor's truck to bring all of our regular farmer's market supplies in our truck and then a truck of just sweet corn. So yeah, we're undersowing it with buckwheat at last cultivation now,
Oh, okay.
and then just letting the buckwheat do its thing. And we were letting it flower.
Yeah, right.
'cause we couldn't get in there to do much after, and so the whole thing's humming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think we've had very little pest pressure in it, and I think that the
Yeah,
biodiversity
I
the
don't-
buckwheat brings.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the buckwheat or not, but yeah, very little corn earworm last year.
Oh, interesting.
And the buckwheat was like, by the time they were like doing silks and stuff, like it was about as tall as the ears, so it was kind of hiding them.
Was that a challenge picking it?
Not at
Not
all.
really,
no.
because buckwheat, it's like you step on it and it falls right over.
Yeah, it's a weak plant, but it grows
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah,
I love buckwheat because of that. You throw it out there and it just pops right up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we still have a great seed bank of it from growing it our first year.
Actually, yeah, we didn't. I don't
we
even
never
think
even
we seeded.
seeded
That
the
just came
buckwheat.
up.
It was just already coming up, and we were like, which was actually kind of great.
Yeah.
We just hoed everything, got everything clean, and then a nice stand of buckwheat just came up all by itself.
I didn't feel like it competed with the corn at all because the corn roots by that point are deeper than the buckwheat's ever going to root.
Right.
And then so first time you walk through to pick, you just kind of mat it down,
Right.
and then it's
It's a nice
just a
mulch.
nice mulch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we terminated that, or not terminated. We mowed down that sweet corn crop and harrowed it in last fall with some winter rye.
Yeah.
That I assume there's a seed bank of buckwheat now that's going to come up whenever we mow that rye down. But I think that's kind of cool because then our post sweet corn cover crop, we'll have done an active tillage in the fall, and then we'll get all of our spring cover crop in the rye, and then we'll mow that down. I don't think we'll have to do any more tillage to get now a summer buckwheat out of it.
Yeah, maybe not.
And then we'll mow that in the fall, and we'll get a full year of cover on that field without having to do too much field work, which, for us, with us using like the pretty basic tillage tools, I feel like a lot of times for us to get a field clean enough to feel like then we have a clean cover crop, we're doing like a lot of disking.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you question, like, am I really coming out net positive in my organic matter here if I have to disc it, 3 times on either side of my cover crop?
Right.
So I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about is some of the undersowing stuff that we're playing with.
Cover crops are fun because it doesn't really matter.
What do you mean?
Like,
You're not
like
making
it
money on
matters,
them.
obviously, for soil health purposes. But like, if the cover crop fails or the timing isn't right, like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like if you throw out, I could have put in a little more seed, or I way overseeded it. Like, it doesn't matter because it's just a cover crop. You're not relying on that from an economics standpoint,
Right.
other than long-term soil health. But that's kind of like the long game.
bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like it's the one place, it is a place where you get to like farm with your mind on a more macro scale as a vegetable farmer. That like, the row crop farmers get to work in that sort of mindset all the time, but we get to play around with it in a low stress, low stakes
Right,
way,
exactly.
which is kind of fun. See if we can, get this whole field to behave in the same way for a little bit.
What's the 10-year outlook look like for this farm?
In terms of,
Are you planning to kind of keep it about this size? You mentioned adding a high tunnel. Are you planning to make any big changes, or just kind of keep rolling?
I think that like probably the next few years we'd like to hit a stable scale of production. We haven't really had, our farm has grown in scale every year since 2018. So we've never had a year where we're like, yeah, we're just doing what we did last year and trying to do it better. I think, 2 more tunnels seems right for the farm, and then having about 7 or 8 acres of like tillage areas that are in either cover or production, and then be using maybe 5 of them in any given year.
Yep.
And I think, hopefully we can hit that level of production in a stable way in the next few years. And then we've talked about adding layers to the operation, just because we love eggs. The world needs more eggs. And there's 0 phosphorus in this soil. So
Weirdly enough.
So you could use a little extra manure.
Yeah, I'd love the opportunity to kind of play around with chickens as like a fertility and pest management engine.
Yep. And roll them out on as part of the rotation.
Yeah.
When we were leasing at Littlewood, Tamarack Hollow was also leasing field space there, and they were running their mobile layer coop.
Yeah.
And I think it was pretty inspiring for us. Again, not having to do any of the chores because it was somebody else's operation, but just seeing what did they have, 350 birds or something?
Yeah, they kept them on that field for 2 years and then moved them off, and then we got to do sweet corn in that field, and it was good.
We did some winter squash in that field too. That was the year we had like the
the year
massive
after. Oh.
butternuts.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think we'd like to add that. And then, I'd really like this to be at a scale where we can have like our full-time employees working here full-time and have it be like a viable long-term thing for them.
Yeah. We've been really lucky. The employees we have, this will be their 4th and 5th year.
Wow.
So figuring out how we can keep making that happen.
Yeah. Keep making sure that it makes sense for them.
Yeah.
Is a big part of the business planning. I'd like working on farms to be a viable life for people.
Yeah, for sure. And also now it just seems so sad to think about hiring somebody new.
Yeah, it doesn't seem sad to me to think about hiring someone new, but it seems sad to not have Zoe and Becca coming back.
Yeah.
Right.
they're you know, our best friends as well as our employees at this point. You know, you spend 40 hours weeding carrots together, and there's a special bond there that can't really be achieved with anything else, I don't think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that, I don't know, does that cover 10 years, you think? I feel like
Yeah.
you could fill 10 years doing that.
Yeah, plenty. Probably ride that out.
And then beyond that, like, you know, we'd love to see, this is a land trust conserved farm with the OPAV on it. And, you know, for the listeners that might not be familiar with the OPAV, it's a clever mechanism that the land trust uses that I think is really effective in ensuring that, you know, we had a good deal to buy this farm, and it allowed us to have land access as farmers, and that comes with sort of a pay it forward promise to it that someday if we sell this farm, it's got to go to a qualified farmer. And I'd like to have the farm be in a place in 30 years where would make sense for somebody who's a farmer to, like, they'd be like, yeah, that's a great farm I want to buy because it's still going to be a productive farm and work. So I think that's kind of a target for the longer term that I try to keep in mind.
Keeping the place viable and operative. Yep.
More viable if I...
Yeah, ideally.
Ideally.
What does sustainable farming mean to you, and what are you doing to achieve it?
I mean, I'm a subscriber to the triple bottom line philosophy. You know, probably first comes first is the financial viability, so that we can afford to do the things that we want to do to be able to achieve the other two. And then, you know, the planet viability. I think there's like the macro and there's the micro, and micro being like the sustainability of our farm, right? And just having our practices be such that we're not losing our soil to erosion and we're not completely depleting the fertility. Though to be fair, we're starting on a pretty low fertility baseline here.
Yeah, we also get the organic matter boost of new fields.
That's true. And then, you know, kind of like we mentioned before, having it translate into us having a business and a farm condition here that can support us retiring someday, and the people who work here being able to work here as a viable career. And then I think what happens at our retirement, in my mind, is like the test of its sustainability, right? Like if when we are ready to retire, it's plausible for us to sell the farm or transition it in some other way to the next generation of farmers, and we come out of it okay, and the farm's coming out of it okay, and they're entering into a situation that's going to be okay and work for everybody involved, like, then that means it like passed the test of one generation of viability, and that's sustainable. So that's like kind of the micro scale of like what's sustainability for our farm. But then there is the macro question, which is, you know, how much are we needing to bring onto the farm to keep that viability, and, you know, how much plastic and other things are leaving the farm. And I'm not sure I have a great answer for that.
It's ever evolving. Just do the best you can.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to add anything to that, Elise?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
How do you disconnect from a farm with a never-ending to-do list?
Well, the winter's nice. The winter's a great break. We both work at a ski resort. And so for me, at least, that's sort of a time to be in a different role, in a different identity space almost, outside of just being a farmer, which I think is kind of helpful. I'm also an EMT. I work on ambulance in East Montpelier, and I do that one night a week. And that's also kind of a nice different world to be in. Kind of take a break that way.
Yeah, I think that that works if you're able to like put on a different hat and like not be in your farmer identity for a moment. Then it doesn't matter how long the to-do list is. It's like not,
Yeah, it's in the other pocket.
insisting on you.
Yep. Yep.
And I definitely get that in the winter too, just by going in. I teach skiing part-time in the winter, and that's a different hat to wear, and a totally different world that doesn't really always care about what's going on my farm.
Right.
And that's probably a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
For
I
me.
think over time too, just realizing, through experience that, if everything doesnn't get done, it'll all work out somehow. I mean, definitely things that need to get done, but
Yeah. Most of the time.
But it is true, like vegetable, as a vegetable farm that's not doing really much with perennials at this point, and we're not doing much with livestock.
Right.
We have this advantage of at the end of the year, frost and snow are going to come, and whatever's going on out there is coming to an end.
Yeah.
Whether it's clean or failing or was successful, like it's gonna die.
Right.
And then winter's gonna happen, and you'll start over again.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to. I think it's good for my mental health and relationship with my to-do list that there's a reset button to that to some extent every year. But it's not easy, I don't think, because there's also projects that don't go away, that are still there on the to-do list the next year,
Yeah.
But sometimes, the wind just takes down that fence you've never got to anyways.
Yeah.
Half the job gets done for you.
It's kind of fun when that happens.
I love it when that happens.
Well, waited so long, I don't need to address that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we left a few pieces of remay out in the field last year that weren't actually that ripped up, and they were right there to use this spring.
Yeah, we didn't clean up all the irrigation lines, and they seem to just have been fine. And it's like, wow, we've been wasting our time by cleaning this up every fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be some hard-learned lessons from that too.
There already is. Oh wow, we just wasted a few $100s.
Yeah.
I'd like to give some credit to Bill though for
Being a very chill farmer.
being a very, very zen farmer. Yes, I can't count how many times I've heard him say like, we'll get what we get. And I hope someday I can say that with as much sincerity as he does sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other mantras or sayings you find yourself repeating? You've rattled off a few of them today already.
Yeah.
What was last year's slogan?
Was last year's slogan? I don't remember. I feel like every year, sometime around June, we kind of, as a crew, settle into like what our mantra for the year is. I know one year was
keep moving forward.
keep moving forward was a really good one.
Yeah.
That I think sticks around.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like,
It was like whenever there was a decision that needed to be made, whatever, just kept the ball rolling
Yeah.
the fastest.
right, like maybe the most tangible example was like us wondering if it was time to pull the spinach out or give it another week
Just
to
move
maybe get a
forward.
little bit more before we transplant. And it was just keep moving forward, pull it out, keep going, on to the next thing.
Yep.
There was say yes to every opportunity. That was a year.
Yikes.
Yeah, now we need to start saying no.
Yeah, we had an overcomplicated wholesale route that year.
Yeah, but it's good because you get then you refine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you know.
Well, and it was kind of in the plan that we knew we would swell up our wholesale route too much, and then
Figure out where.
figure out what we wanted to keep out of that. And I think some good market relationships came out of that. Like that was the first year we were selling to Fox Market, which is another awesome local Plainfield business if you haven't been to Fox Market.
No.
Yeah, East Montpelier, but yeah.
Right. They're part of the Plainfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember what last year's mantra was. I think it was something about systems, and we kind of didn't end up doing it because it got too hectic.
Oh. Last year's, yeah.
Desire for systems.
Don't get cultivated.
Don't get cultivated. That was,
That was kind of a joke one.
yeah. Yeah, don't get cultivated was, I mean, it started off with just like I was getting on the cultivating tractor and I wasn't slowing down, and yeah, I think the rest of the crew was like transplanting or something, and trying to make sure they got out of the way before I cultivated them right into things. But
Yeah. But then we just referred to any time we would get hurt as getting cultivated.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a safety-focused year.
Yeah, yeah. If you were restarting now, is there anything you would have done differently?
Probably less
kinda feel like
old used equipment.
yeah.
We wasted a lot of money on a few used things that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Because it was the wrong tool, or because it was old and...
Because it was not in good condition.
Yeah. We bought an 8N that seemed really nice.
Though the 8N might be fine. We just gotta pull it out here and look at it.
Yeah, but it did have, I mean, it was
Oh, that leak.
hemorrhaging
Yeah, that was pretty bad
oil.
actually. Oh yeah, right. We bought it, we drove it to Littlewood, and then it was stranded down there for the entire season.
Yeah, and took a
Until
lot
I
of
fixed
gasket
it.
sealer,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily a great long-term solution for it. But and then we bought like a pickup truck that seemed like we had set a pretty low bar for quality on it because it was to be just a farm truck, just for harvesting stuff. But it actually we set the bar too low,
Yeah.
and it started making some horrible noises.
Yeah, and
And-
it's like kind of too big of a project to do here, but it's like, is it worth the cost of trailering it to
Yeah.
a shop?
So yeah, I think that's one lesson I would do differently is being a little bit more picky about the used equipment we buy,
Yeah.
and being a little bit more patient, or I guess just selective of where you're buying it from. Everything I've bought from another farmer has panned out wonderfully.
That's true.
The only things we bought that didn't pan out wonderfully were from buying off of Marketplace from non-farming sellers.
Interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep. Other things that we would do differently, if we were starting off from the beginning, I feel like maybe we would have started off with CSA rather than wholesale.
Like the very beginning?
If we were starting from the very beginning.
Maybe. I like doing wholesale though.
Yeah. Anything else? I think generally, maybe to the same point as the equipment, I think if we were starting over again, or I could go back and talk to myself again,
Right.
it would be like to not be as afraid of spending money on things that are really going to help your crop.
Yeah,
Like-
that was something we found, like just being stingy was never really paid off.
Like the amount of hours of my life wasted on trying to make an irrigation system out of only parts that I could find around the farm, rather than just calling Brookdale and saying, I need to irrigate this field, send me everything I need. Like our hours that I will never get back and were not worth the amount of money I saved. Because I eventually came to my senses and did just that, and now we have a Magnant system and a drip tape system, and it works beautifully, and the crops do so much better. And
Yeah, not being stingy with the propane and the electricity to keep it like 60 or 70 in here all the time. It's
Right.
really paid off
Yeah, we would
as far
like
as plant health.
go down to like 40 at night in the greenhouse, maybe,
Yeah,
just to like
no.
try and save a little bit on propane.
Yeah.
It's like
Never
then
worth
my
it.
peppers are 2 weeks behind. I was just thinking and just like when we were leasing and we were paying hourly rental on tractor equipment, we did so much by hand scale, or so much that should have been at cultivation scale, but we were doing by hand because we were like, it's not worth the, $40 to rent the basket weeder for an hour to like just go do it with a basket weeder. It's like, no, it was so worth it to just start
Yeah.
using equipment. I think those are
It's just hurt a little more because you knew the dollar value every time you turned the key.
right.
Versus not thinking about it and just hopping on and going.
Yeah.
Right. Now I can just pretend like the more I use the tractor, it's not, wear and tear isn't real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
Those are some good tips and lessons learned for sure. Hard truths, I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many good lessons to learn in farming. This
Yeah.
morning I was just thinking about how the perfect anatomy of the good that one.
Oh,
Using the paper pot transplanter. The paper pot transplanter teaches me that every time I use it. Because I'm like, I love to hate this tool because it's like clunky and it doesn't always go well. But I'm like, I know I'm still saving a ton of time even if it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may not be ideal, but it's still way faster than the alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say that's a mantra around this farm is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are good. Those are good.
And that was the Farmer's Share. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Kagan and Elise at Blackbird Organics. The Farmer's Share is supported by a grant offered by the USDA Specialty Crop Block Program from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets. This funding helps to cover some of my time and travel in order to produce this podcast until March of 2026. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service supports projects that address the needs of U.S. specialty crop growers and strengthens local and regional food systems. I have no doubt that this podcast will meet those needs and help educate growers to support the industry. If you enjoy this show and want to help support its programming, you can make a one-time or reoccurring donation on our website by visiting thefarmershare.com/support. This show is also supported by the Ag Engineering Program of the University of Vermont Extension. We also receive funding from the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association. The VVBGA is a nonprofit organization funded in 1976 to promote the economic, environmental, and social sustainability of vegetable and berry farming in Vermont. Their membership includes over 400 farms across Vermont and beyond, as well as about 50 businesses and organizations that provide products and services of all types to their members. Benefits to members include access to the VVBGA listserv to buy, sell plants and equipment, share farming information, and tap the vast experience of our growers. Access the Community Accreditation for Produce Safety, also known as CAPS. This program is designed for growers, by growers, to help you easily meet market and regulatory food safety expectations. You can access the VVBGA's Soil Health Platform, where you can organize all the soil tests and create and store your soil amendment plans and records. Access to webinars for growers in the VVBGA annual meeting. An email subscription to the Vermont Vegetable and Berry newsletter. Camaraderie, enhanced communication, and fellowship among commercial growers. Memberships are on a per farm, per calendar year basis, and annual dues this year are $80. These funds pay for the organization's operating costs and support educational programs and research projects. These funds also support projects that address grower needs around ag engineering, high tunnel production, pest management, pollinators, produce safety, and soil health. Become a member today to be a part of and further support the veg and berry industry. You can visit thefarmershare.com to listen to previous interviews or see photos, videos, or links discussed from the conversation. If you don't want to miss the next episode, enter your email address on our website and you'll get a note in your inbox when the next one comes out. The Farmer's Share has a YouTube channel with videos from several of the farm visits. We're also on Instagram, and that's where you can be reminded about the latest episode or see photos from the visit. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could write a review. In Apple Podcasts, just click on the show, scroll down to the bottom, and there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with other grower friends or crew who you think would be inspiring for them. Thanks for listening.